Hi, this is Dennis Farron with the weekly show Compile Link Run. I'm recording a new intro to this video because I had some technical issues with the original beginning of the stream, and the stream dropped a lot, so I'm going to have to edit the video a bit. And so I'm putting this at the beginning of it so you'll understand if there's some jumps or discontinuities. What we've got for you tonight is a compilation of the classic computer game Diablo. This is reverse engineered source code, but what's really neat about it is that it has the actual variable names, and or at least some of them. Looking at this code, I see that some of them look a little bit more like decompilation, but basically someone who is on GitHub as Diasurgical, and someone who he credits someone named Galaxy Hacks for reverse engineering the Diablo source code. Someone left a PDB file that has the debug information. They left that on a disk, a PlayStation disk or something somewhere, and this individual was able to get that debug information and combine it with the decompiled source code to create something that is still decompilation, but is a little bit more high level than just a decompilation without any names. And what we're going to do in this video is get these projects, these C++ projects for this to build on our machine, and then in between stream drops I try unsuccessfully to run the exe. And next week I'm going to try again to get the built executable to run. I had two people who are former Diablo players also in the stream helping me out with it, so shout out to Funkmaster MP and SOS Cookies for watching tonight's stream and giving me a hand with it, and I hope to see everyone next week so we can continue this. Thanks. Okay, so I've got my Diablo disk, and I've got the project. Now let's download it. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and copy the link, and I'm going to use my MSys2 prompt that I've got here. Should already be set up with Git. Let's see. Okay. Git clone. Paste. Oh, maybe I've already downloaded it. Okay, it looks like I might have already downloaded it last week or a couple weeks ago to make sure that I could get a copy of it. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that it's up to date. So I'm going to say git status. Okay. Okay, it looks like there was a recent change just not too long ago, so it's a good thing that I went ahead and pulled the update. Okay, now probably what I can do is just open the solution. There should be a solution in there. Let's find out. And now I believe the DSW would be your classic older Visual C++ VC6, it seems to be saying. And then the solution and the VCX are going to be the newer one. So now I click on that. And okay, there's the references. Storm DLL doesn't reference anything. Okay, it's in debug build. Sure, let's go ahead and build it. Okay. It says the Windows SDK version 8.1 was not found. Install the required version of the SDK. Or change the SDK version. I'm gonna start with this one here because it should be the simplest to compile. It shouldn't have other dependencies on the other two projects. Here it says Windows SDK version 8.1. Let's see if I can build it by changing it to 10. So what this is right here is it has, I'm not sure whether this is strictly the Windows OS version or whether this is the more to do with Visual Studio. I've noticed that, for instance, when I built with Visual Studio 2017 on my work computer, it wants to use the Windows 10 SDK even though I'm using Windows 7 there. In this case, I'm using Windows 10 and the projects were set to the Windows 8 SDK. And I'm not really sure why I don't have the Windows 8 SDK at all here as an option. As you can see, once I click the drop down, it's not even an option. But since I've got Windows 10 and it wants to choose the Windows 10 SDK, I'm going to go ahead and go with it. Platform tool set. Looks like that's okay. Probably what would happen is that I wouldn't want to push this change to the repository. It might break things for people who don't have Windows 10, but I'm really not sure. I'll have to look that up. So let's try to rebuild this project and see what it says. I was actually a little bit scared that it might just build out of the box, but and then I wouldn't have anything to talk about. But okay, so ignoring edit and continue. Okay, we can probably ignore that warning. I hope. I change this one. Of course, we want all of the projects to be on the same SDK version. Okay, I'm going to rebuild everything. We got some warnings. So this project, I'm really excited to see this because reverse engineering Diablo at least enough to be able to update how it connects over the internet was something that I had always promised a friend of mine that I would do, and I never got around to trying to do it. I played a lot of this game back in high school, and then again when I got out of the military and spent about a year or two at home playing this before I went to college. And my friend and I both played it, but it got to the point to where because of changes in network technology with NAT and so forth, that we just couldn't get our games to connect properly. And I always felt bad that I didn't do more to try to get that working. I always meant to be like, oh well, I'll reverse engineer how the network code in this works and write some kind of a shim so that we can connect over modern networking. But going to college and then working and everything else, I never got a chance to do that. Okay, so now we're hitting a hard error here, and it's saying cannot open AFX resource.h. And I believe what's going on with that is I've since found out that the community edition of Microsoft Visual Studio does not include MFC. MFC used to be called Active Framework Extensions before it was rebranded MFC, and so that's where all these AFX things come in. Now I'm hoping that because this is a game that it might not depend that much on MFC, especially if this is coming from, say, an extra project or something like, say, the setup or something like that. But I don't know about that. Let's see, this one here, let's try building this one. That one was up to date. Okay, that one's up to date. Build this one. This is the one that failed. Cannot open this include file. Okay. So we've got resources. It's looking like I might have some difficulty here. Let's see what's in these resource things. Even though I don't have MFC, maybe I can view. Here it is, the resource view. Let's close that, reopen it. Oh. Okay. Now it's not even going to let me do anything with that. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. So apparently it does use something from MFC, because otherwise they wouldn't have the RC, that RC thing, and then include the AFX. But I'm wondering how much it actually depends on that. Oh, no, I don't want to search for that error. It really does not look like it uses a whole lot of MSC. So there may be a way around that issue. Okay. Diablo AC, RC, include AFX. So there's two ways I could go with this. I could either try to get rid of this RC thing entirely, or I could try to trick it and give it just enough with this to make it work. I'm not sure if the RC files will work at all without that. It should, though, because if it can build a Win32, then it should be able to build build that. So let's see. I'm gonna have to do something about this too, and I'm gonna have to Google about this because I'm not sure what the right way to get rid of that line there is. So recently at work I had to merge two MFC projects, and had to do a whole lot of research on RC files and things like these sections, so I could figure out which things I needed to combine together and which things I needed to deduplicate, etc. And I'm probably going to devote an entire show just to merging MFC projects, because there's some non-trivial things in there. And I had looked up this, but I'd forgotten what that was. Read-only symbol directives. Okay, so this read-only symbol directives thing, I believe, is what's going on with that is when you run the graphic design tool, or the visual design tool, whatever, that resource view thing, which I can't actually open, so right here it won't let me. This would be including things that are available as symbols, but they can't be remapped by the UI editor. One of the things the UI editor does is that it writes identifiers to this resource.h file, which I don't even know if this project has one. Which is another reason, that's another reason it makes me think that maybe it doesn't necessarily need that RC file very much. Now down here, of course, we've got these dialogues. Okay, so these are dialogues from this. I wonder if I can skip building this file entirely. But then again, if it's defining these, let's look for something that will tell me for sure if this is using MFC. Okay, there's no C dialog. Let's look for C wind. Now let's look for C. Let's look for. Oh, what's it called? C wind app. Okay, it really does not look like this thing's using MFC. This is interesting to me because I didn't know you could use these resource files outside of MFC. I thought this was something to do with specifically with MFC, but maybe not. So I'm going to try here. Where's resource.h? Resource.h, where are you? Oh, okay, there you are. Yeah, so this is the important thing. This is the output from that, or one of the outputs from that. These are IDs that get remapped sometimes by the UI editor, or sometimes not. One of the things I had to do when I was merging some projects at work recently was I had to find a tool that would help me manage these, because I had a project that I was merging projects that had thousands of these in there, including control, because it included controls. What's interesting to me here is there's no controls listed here. It's just dialogues. So that's another thing to another reason to think that maybe I don't need that. Now, over here, I'm just going to try to include that. I'm going to just take this out. No, let's see. I'm going to do this with it. Just leave that like that. Now, let's see what it does. Primary language ID, not a number. Okay. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to try making a new project with this version of Visual Studio and see how it comes out. And that might give me a guide as to how to fix this RC file so that I can compile it without MFC. So I'm going to say new project. I'm going to make a Windows desktop application. I'm going to, yeah, I'll leave it in that default location because there's no need to put it underneath the Diablo solution right now. If manually hacking the RC file fails, something else that I could try is to manually add the source code files to a new project that I create. That's actually what I ended up having to do on those two projects that I was merging that I talked about before. Okay, Windows Project 1, etc., etc. Let's see what we get when we do that. Okay, we do get an RC file. Looks different than that other. Oh, because I opened it here. Let's view the code for that. Okay. And it does not include AFX. And it looks different than the other one. Okay. Very nice. Here we go, Windows Project 1. Alright, now we're in business because we can look at this and learn how to fix that other one. So I'm going to go here. Got this one open. Now, oh, it opened a new solution. That is not what I wanted to do. Okay. Close that solution, open the Diablo solution. I'm going to say add existing project. Looks like the stream's having some problems. OBS Studio disconnected. Okay, hopefully the recording's still working. I'm really not sure about that. I'm going to assume that it is. It says recording. I'm going to stop the stream and restart it. Well, okay. It's frozen. Okay, I've stopped the stream. I'm gonna check my stream key. I shouldn't be able to see this while I'm doing it. Let's see here. Streaming tools. Where's my dashboard? Okay, start streaming. Since I just had a problem with this, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording as well, and I'm going to restart it. An open source project, or I talk about C++ issues to help people build their own projects and get their projects to link. Or just doesn't have to be C++, but usually that's what the focus will be. Today we're compiling something called today we're compiling Diablo Devilution, which is a decompilation of the Diablo source code. I'm going to go ahead and see if the stream is working. Okay, it looks like the stream's working again. So previously what we've done is we've downloaded the Diablo Devilution source code, and we've compiled some of it, but we hit a snag on the resource file because it's including the MFC header, and the free version of Visual Studio that I'm using here does not have MFC with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if transplanting some of the text from a Windows project made with this version of Visual Studio, I'm going to see if transplanting some of that into this Diablo resource file will allow me to get rid of that dependency on MFC, because since this is a game and it is an older game, I suspect that it doesn't have very many dependencies on MFC, if it has any at all. It may have none and just happen to have included that in the RC file. So I'm going to go view code here, and I'm going to actually I think I'm going to take a look at what my resource.h looks like as well. Okay, so that's the one from this new project. This is the one from the Diablo project. Not really much difference. So I'm going to close those. Okay, now let's put these side by side. So on the right here, I've got the RC file from the Diablo program, and on the left I've got the resource file from the new project that I created to give me some idea of what this RC file should look like. And this one here, did this include AFX resource.h, etc. And this is generated from text include to resource. This one here says target var, app studio, symbols, Windows 8, etc. I'm thinking this is what I need to replace that AFX header with, rather than just commenting it out. Now I'm going to go down here, and here we have language, etc., etc. And I'm going to take this guy over here. I'm going to put him over that chunk there. So now we're using the numbers directly, and we won't have to worry about the macro not being defined. So what I think is going on here is I think that the default RC file that came with Diablo Devilution, I keep calling it Diablo Devilution, it's just Devilution, but it's the Diablo reverse engineered source code. I think the one that came with it is the default that you get with a version of Visual Studio that comes with MFC. And I think that probably for the community version, or maybe it's been around longer like this, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that what they probably did was they took the MFC dependencies that normally would be in there and made this RC file just include the things that MFC header would in turn include. And by the way, these RC files, they get pre-processed. They kind of like how the C++ and the header files get pre-processed in terms of it has these hash include, if, def, and so forth. I'm not real clear on what happens to the file after that. I guess it goes to this resource compiler thing. I'm not really sure what the output of this looks like after translation. It'd be an interesting exercise to see what that does look like. But basically, you have, just like in C or C++, you have defines for macros, and you can say if not defined. And then this right here, in the version that was before I replaced that, see how it had this laying English, sublaying English US. These were macros that I'm assuming would have been defined in the AFX header, but since I don't have that, I just have the numbers directly. So I'm going to go down here and let's see, we got icon, okay. Now what I haven't seen yet is I haven't seen these 1, 2, 3, text include, etc. Oh, here we go. Okay. Ah, interesting. So this, I don't need to make it have less, I actually need to put more in there. To put all these things in there. And again, this is, I believe this is stuff that would have in turn been included by that AFX whatever, excuse me, AFX win or whatever that header was. Okay, so let's see. Now, is there anything else we're missing? Okay, App Studio and Web. Well, this one just has the dialogues after that, but I don't think the order on that matters. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay, this has these dialogues, this has these dialogues. Hopefully there's nothing in here that's dependent on the... Oh, okay, now this might be... so here we have this VS version info, and I think I've run into this before. That uses VS version info, but this one, if you notice, where's that at? Notice this one's saying include target ver. If not definitely, whereas this one has this stuff here. What I may get is a warning that the manifest has or the manifest of the executable or something has duplicate version info. And if so, I might have to do something to take out one or the other of these not sure yet which one I'm going to do. Looks like this version info is more extensive, so I might take out the other one. In fact, actually, let's look at this. This has target ver here. This Windows project has this thing called target ver. It includes SDK DDK version. It says here, if you wish to build your application, set the WinT macro. Well, let's go ahead and give it a try anyway. Probably could have just hit build instead of rebuild. Now I'm going to get all the warnings again. These warnings are basically because, well, those don't look good. Int pointer to unsigned care. Well, that's a little bit odd. So C was a lot, especially back when Diablo 1 was written, C was a lot more laissez-faire about types and casting. And when you compile older code with a newer compiler, you're going to get a lot of errors like that. Ooh, it looks like we almost lost the stream there for a second. Let me check my recording here. Still says I'm recording. Some of these warnings look fairly serious. I'm sure some of the bugs in the game are probably down to a few of these. And if I were to contribute to this project, one of the things that I might do would be to fix some of these warnings. Okay, cannot open. Okay. So, obviously, that's not going to work very well if I don't have target version.h. So, first I'm going to make sure that there's not one in there already that has a similar name that's going to conflict. Then I'm going to say, I could probably drag this over there, but I've had bad luck with IDs putting files in weird places. So I'm going to go ahead and create the file manually so that I know where it goes, hopefully. Okay. Target, it's going to go there, but is that really where I want it to go? So I'm looking at the folder. Looks like it needs to go in a folder called source. Oh yeah, gotta make sure it has the right name. Target ver.h. Alright. Now let's make sure that that contains the same text as this. Okay. So now what we've done is we've grafted the lines of text from the resource file from this example project, from the fresh project. We've grafted in the header, including this thing SDK version.h. Defining a bunch of things like WinNT versions, etc., etc. Hopefully that doesn't conflict with anything that's already set up in the code. Let's give it a try. Still can't open the include file. Okay, that's surprising. Wonder what's going on. Okay, where did this file go? It went into source. Grab a random file here. That one's in source. It's called target ver. Target ver.h. Target ver.h. Why can't it find the include file? Well, there's another thing we can do, which is that we can get rid of this, or just ignore this for a moment. And since it only includes one thing, let's promote it right up to here and see what happens. And that surprisingly works. Maybe there's some include folder settings that have to be passed to this. Now, as for why that one had to be set up like that, but this one here is okay like this, I'm not really sure. Looks like we might be losing our stream again. Seems to be roughly every 15 minutes we lose our stream. I'm going to go ahead and cut this recording as well and make a third video, because that way if audio or anything else got messed up in the during the recording, I'll have a chance to fix it. So I'm a solution, and a recap of what I've done is that I took the two resource files here, .rc files I mean, and I used this sample project as a source material in order to make this one work so that I wouldn't need MFC in order to build Diablo. And the stream cut out right at kind of a bit anticlimactic. I finally got Diablo to build, and the stream cut out right at the exact same moment that I did that. But looks like, okay, so we've got that building now. What's the chances that it's actually going to run? And also, how's it going to find the data that it needs? But I'm going to go ahead and start the program and let's see what it does. Okay. Code execution cannot proceed because Diablo UI.dll was not found. Reinstalling the program may fix this problem. Storm DLL is not found. Reinstalling the program may fix this problem. This is going to touch on something that I touched on in the episode about the Hello World, which has to do with the DLL projects and where the output should go. I like it when programs send their output to the solution folder, which is the default configuration in new projects. This one looks like it may be configured differently, and then it's a very odd configuration there. It's got a backslash and then a forward slash. And this WinDebug folder. But as long as they're both going to the same place, then we might be okay. Let's see where that's going, WinDebug. I don't think those are the same folder. Let's find out. So this one's going here. Here's our Diablo exe. Now where's our DLLs? The DLL is not going there because I think those reference two different folders, maybe. No? Okay. I'm gonna just search for the DLL files. Okay, where did they go? They went to, okay. Rather than going to a upper level folder, they went to local folders. I'm not really sure why that configuration ended up that way, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get this output directory from here, and I'm just going to paste it over these ones. So what I want them to do is I want them to go over the to go into the same directory rather than into subfolders of the project. I just want to check something here. Okay, WinDebug, when release, that makes sense. But I'm going to change this to say for all configurations, to fix that intermediate directory in a minute too, because I don't like it how it's set. Okay, so this is our output directory, and what it's going to do is it's going to go to, in the solution directory, it's going to say debug, etc., release, etc. And by making it a solution level folder, then all of the other projects will be sure to put DLLs in the same place. I'm kind of wondering if the project includes a custom build step that was supposed to copy it, or a post-build step. No, it doesn't. The other one could have a pre-build step. Let's see if that one has it. Pre-build, pre-link, post-build. No. Okay. So the other way this is commonly done to get the DLLs into the right folder is to either use a pre or post-build event to copy the file in there. I'm not such a huge fan of that because it's just an extra step. It uses extra space in your hard disk, which if you've got a really big executable, with sometimes I have compiled very large executables, you're just copying extra data needlessly. Whereas if you set everything to the same output folder for all of them, then it gets built right in place. And because we're using this macro that includes the configuration in the name of the folder, then we ensure that it will have, it'll disambiguate whether it's the debug build or the release build, etc. Okay, that's good there. This one here. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get the intermediate directory. And I should really write a Visual Studio plugin that does this. Okay. So now what I've done is I've changed the configuration so that the object files will go into a subfolder of the project that is specific to the different build configuration. And then the output directory will still be specific to the build configuration, but all of the 3 projects will go to the same folder. So now if I rebuild this, it would go to the same solution folder. I should get, where's my search here? Okay. So now, whereas before I just had this in the folder, now I should pretty soon get the build output. And okay. And then this right here, whereas before it was going to the WinDebug, now this is where the intermediate files will go, I believe. Actually, what's odd about that is, that's surprising to me. That's not where I expected. I expected to see the object files going there. I'm not really sure where they ended up. Source WinDebug. Odd. Okay. So I'm not sure what happened there with the object files. I expected them to end up in a new folder. Let me see if I properly set that up. Intermediate directory configuration. And then, okay, so that should have caused the object files to end up in, oops, a folder, and oh, and the DLLs did not go here. Okay, so that's strange. You definitely rebuilt it, but where did they go? Warning, target path does not match the linker's output file property. Ah, okay. Yeah, okay, so here's why. And if you'll notice there, I could have just said, oh, object files, that's not an important setting, which, I mean, I really don't. I don't care in particular where the object files go as long as the setting's consistent. But the fact that it didn't do what I expected raised my spider sense on that as to something odd might be going on in general. And what's going on here is that even though I've set the official output directory of the project, the linker is still receiving different information. The linker has not gotten the memo yet that that it should be outputting those files to that location. That's something that caused me probably about 2 or 3 days worth of problems on something earlier this month. So once again, I'm going to go to my example project here, and I'm going to look for my output directory, output file. Okay, that's for that one. And then also the C++, all options, output. So my object file output is going to be here. And where is it? Object file name intdr. I bet you that it is different in this project. Output files. Yeah, see, these are, no, I'm not liking that. Excuse me, so I'm going to go to all configurations. And you can set a file name or a folder here. It's much better to set the folder name. I've had strange build errors when I had a file name fragment in part of the file, in this, so I just like to have just this folder name. And that intdir, I'm not exactly sure how that relates to this. I guess it stands for intermediate directory. Okay, then that makes sense. So I'm going to go here, object file name, and I believe that I want to set that for these two as well. And actually, here's something, this program database and the debugging, or there's also a program database. There's two different program database settings, and only one of them is actually the PDB file. The other one is just a weird, it just happens to be called PDB, but it doesn't really have debugging information in it. It's something that's used by the build system. It happens to have the same format, but not actually used by the debugger. And that can trip you up if you have the wrong setting for that, because it will mess things up. Okay, so this one looks right. Let me check it out against here. Okay, that one looks right. We probably want to generate debug information on both. I'm gonna go back. See here, the debug information, if you don't generate it, it might be a slightly faster link, but then you won't have the symbols if you try to debug the release build. And aside from the link taking a little bit more time, there's really no reason not to have the debug information enabled for your release as well. And the reason why is because, unlike Linux, GCC, or Clang, unlike those ones that use like a cough, I think that's cough or whatever, those compilers embed the debug information directly into the debug executable. And if you were to turn this on a release build, it wouldn't be much of a release build because it would have all the debug information taking up space in there. But Windows and Visual Studio does things a little bit neater in that they have this PDB format that's a separate file. And so no matter how much debug information you have, it's only alongside the executable and not embedded directly in it. In fact, that kind of relates to how this Devilution project came about, which was because one of the people who made this Devilution project found a PDB file for the Diablo exe, and that's how they were able to get the names for things in the decompiled source code. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to debug full information, because who knows, I might need that information when I'm running, if I try to run a release build of this and if it crashes or does whatever. Okay, so I've set that, got my that right there. I'm going to look at, there's another setting, which is, yeah, I'm going to save that. What I'm looking for is the other setting, the other output file, code generation. Okay, so what I'm looking for is there's another debug information setting that doesn't really have anything to do with the normal debug information, and it gets set to something that has like a, here it is, program database file name. So it's that PDB file, but it's not really debug information. It's something else. It's anyway, and it's given this name here, which is, what's interesting is it doesn't make it unique per project, and that's how you know that that it's something else, because as I said, the PDB file is supposed to set alongside the exe, and if this doesn't have the name of the project in it, how can you put this with the exe and the similar one for the DLL, how can you put them all into the same output folder? Well, the answer is you can't, because this is not supposed to go in the output folder. This is internal to the project build. So I'm going to get this from here, because I'm guessing that if those other directories were configured strangely on here, then this one might be also configured. I call it strangely, I just mean that it might have a non-default setting, and I like to see default settings wherever possible. So I'm looking for a program database file name. Let's see here. Here we go. Okay, sorry, yeah. See, that's not what we want to see there on this program database file name. On here, we have that, and that is what we want on all of those. So I'm going to put that on here, and I'm going to go back to all configurations. I'm going to change this one. Okay, whoops. And I'm going to change it on this one. And I'm going to change it on this one. And I just noticed that I didn't copy this int-dir thing to all of those. But first, I'm going to check if both of the, yeah, okay, so both of those, the ASM and the object file, should be int-dir. I don't know if this thing has any ASM output, but just in case, we'll go ahead and do that. I guess someone actually in the chat channel. I should have been watching this chat channel more closely, but anyway, better late than never. Okay, I'm compiling the Diablo source code with someone reverse engineered. I guess I could have just said that instead of typing it in the chat. I'm still new to this Twitch live streaming. Anyway, yeah, exactly. You could hear me. Thanks for watching. Funkmaster MP. Cool. So you're here because of Diablo or because of programming? Oh, hi. SOS Cookie says hello. Oh, okay. You speedrun this game. Very cool. Very good. Do you do the tool assisted speedruns or the oh, well, all right then. So do you do the like a tool assist, or do you do the manual speedruns? I'm not really familiar with the acronym RTA. Oh, real time. Oh, okay, very cool. I used to do. I wasn't competitive or probably very good on any kind of absolute scale, but I used to do Iron Man in the game. I would go down there and try to, as a mage, and try to survive as long as I could with no gear and with no town runs. Um, since you missed the beginning of the stream, I'll just go back over the reason why this is really important to me. Why this getting this project to compile is important to me is that I had always been promising a friend of mine that I used to play with that I'd go in there and reverse engineer the code and figure out how to update the networking. Oh, okay. My stream seems to keep going down from my side, so I'm not sure if I went down for a minute there or not. But anyway, so what I was saying was that I kept promising my friend that I would reverse engineer the source code and or not the source code, but reverse engineer the executable and figure out the network format, or maybe instrument the network format so that I could fix it so that we could play over over modern network address translation, things like that. And I never had time. And so I happened to, earlier this month, I happened to see that someone has actually already reverse engineered all of the source code to the game because they found a debug build or a debug database for the source code. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just updating the source code to compile on my machine, and if I'm successful in that, in a little bit, I'm going to maybe dig into the source code a little bit and see what we can learn from that. Something now, you guys probably know about Jarl's Guide. Okay, SOS Cookie says, I know some programming, being a programmer for a few months. Hey, good to go. Good for you, SOS Cookies. Anyway, so it looks like my stream might be going down again. I don't know if it's just on my end. Oh, yeah, I got disconnected. Okay, I'm gonna pause this recording again and until we get the stream working. It sounds like there is significant enough deviation of applicable to speedrunning, at least in its current form. I'm guessing you're talking about, I was about to mention Jarl's Guide, and I was going to say that it would be really interesting to take Jarl's Guide and cross-reference it to the source code. One thing that might be possible to do would be to run something like, say, Doxygen, which is a documentation source code documentation generator. That will create an HTML file that links to the different methods in the code and so forth. And if we took Jarl's Guide and took that and put it either into the code comments or somehow combine that with the Doxygen output from the source code, then we might be able to make some kind of a compiled thing to where it wouldn't just say, well, this is the figured out formula for these drop rates or whatever. It might be possible to actually show the code that does it. That'd be pretty interesting. I haven't had a chance to dig into the code itself yet. Right now I'm just kind of approaching it from the outside in of getting this to build. Okay, so I was setting the ASM file and ASM location and object file name. Basically what I'm doing is I'm making it to where when the object files are compiled, or when the CPP files, the C++ code is compiled and creates the object file, I want to make sure that the folder it goes into is somewhere that I want it to go. And okay, let's see. Set that one, set that one, set that one. Okay. Now the other thing I need to do is make sure that the linker has the correct output file. So here, I'm going to go to the output. I'll go to all options. And there we go, output file. Once again, I'm going to just take the default settings and paste it onto here. What I've found is that 9 times out of 10, when you have some problem building a project, it comes down to a setting that's not set to the default. You really need to have a good reason not to use the default settings on these things, in my opinion, especially when it uses a macro. Now, it could be that maybe older versions of the Visual Studio might not have had macros that are as convenient, might not have been configured this way. I'm not sure. But I know in Visual Studio 2017, the way it uses macros for the folder locations, I think it does a pretty good job of how to set that up. Okay, so now we've set up our linker output file and our object file locations. Now I'm going to try rebuilding the whole solution and see if we get it putting it in the folders that I want it to go into. And by the way, guys, if you in the chat, if there's anything that you want me to look into in the code, like open up one of the code files, or if you want me to look for a particular piece of information, like how does it do this or that, I'd be happy to try to find that in the code. I'm not familiar with this code base, but I do have a little bit of experience with digging into unfamiliar code bases. Okay, now let's see if it's putting the object files where I expect. And right now, I think it is putting them where I expect. The only thing is, I think I would prefer if the object files were not in with these output files, but I guess I can't be too picky. I'm not really sure why that one ended up there. Maybe they all have the same, I'm guessing they all have the same root folder, which is here in the solution as well. So what I've done is I've actually I fixed one problem and created another, but it's not really a problem. But what I did was I was assuming that this solution level folder would be different than the ones for the object files, and it's not. They can be in the output. It's just extra stuff that doesn't need to be there. The only things it really needs in the final output are the executable and the 2 DLLs and possibly some other files, but we'll find out when I go to run it. Okay. Wow. Okay, that must be a visual glitch. I thought it was opening multiple of these. So it's saying, in order to install, play, or patch, you need to log in as administrator or power user. Okay. And okay. And it's changing my screen resolution. You guys probably can't see that, huh? Oh, yeah, I guess you can. I wonder if there's a way to run this in the window. Diablo has exhausted all memory on your system. Nice. Sure you have at least 10 megabytes of free hard disk space. I sure hope so. Etc., etc. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and try run as administrator, see if that fixes anything. I don't have the files installed, so that probably is the next thing that I need to do. I'm wondering if that duplication on those, if that mangled look of the dialogues has anything to do with the surgery that I did on the resource file earlier for the dialogue resources. Okay, so when all else fails, read the documentation. I go back here and let's see. Okay. Compiling. Then building, compiling, installing. Okay, once compiled, serves a replacement Diablo exe. It's needed to run the game. Either copy it or make sure the following files are present. Okay. So, now I've got my trusty Diablo CD here. And I'm going to put it in. Now I'm not sure, okay, let's see. Someone said that's the best way we found to run a vanilla copy. Okay, here's what I missed in the chat. Diablo doesn't work very well in Windows Vista Plus, and streaming it is very unlikely. Most people need a patch to even stream it, which is pointless if you're trying to work with the source. I just want to throw the idea of using a virtual machine to help it run. Ah, thank you. To both of you, SOS Cookies and Funkmaster MP. Speaking of which, since I'm having a little bit of trouble right now getting the actual files to be found by what I just built there, just want to cover, so what you were saying about it not streaming very well, and I think I know the answer to that. Let me go to this project solo SourceForge, and it might not come up. Here, we'll just go SourceForge. So I actually wrote a Diablo bot, not for cheating, but just for my own use for messing around, and I was kind of considered it as if I was doing AI research with it, but really I just was messing around. But anyway, it is on here. Oh, did my stream drop again? It's kind of dropped off the Google search. Okay, reduce the stream image quality. Okay, I'll go ahead and try that. I'm gonna stop the recording again. Okay, I changed it from 1080 to 720. I was hoping that the 15 frames a second that I had it set to would allow the stream to work even though it was high definition. Let's see. SOS Cookie says you've reduced string call it. Okay, I did that. Funkmaster MP says, at least in terms of streaming, the patch we use is actually a sudo dx9 patch since OBS streaming software can't handle any DX before that. Yeah, so I wrote a Diablo bot when I was in college. It's it's on SourceForge. I called it Project Solo. So kind of dropped off the Google searches for that set of words, but it said this link, sourceforge.net/project/project solo. And what I found in writing that was that I could not capture the screen accurately with newer Windows calls, I had to resort to a Windows bitmap or Windows screen capture call, a low-level GDI call or something like that dates back to Win16 and like Windows 3.1 and stuff, and it's when you use it you get these warnings that it's deprecated and could be removed at any time, but as far as I know it's still in the Windows API. But if you see these images here, how they look kind of funky, those false color images, the reason why that is because they are 256-bit, or not 256 color 8-bit values, and there's a separate palette information that goes with it. And on top of that, Diablo actually modifies the palette to handle with lighting, etc. And so what I did in this was I couldn't be bothered to make it to figure out how to make it dynamically reload the palette information, and so I just gave it false colors, because whenever you alt-tab out of Diablo and back in, the colors are all messed up anyway. And so in these things, this is what you're seeing here is this is what the bot is actually seeing, and the numbers on the right here are the raw byte numbers that it's seeing. So that could have something to do with why it's hard to stream a Diablo game. And then if you see in this screenshot here how it's got the little waypoints there, or that little path there, what those are waypoints. And that was why it was important that I capture the actual byte values. Yeah, okay, I might have two mics then enabled to see. Desktop audio mic aux. Yeah, it looks like I have two enabled probably. Let's see if I can pull this up. I'm really not sure which one to disable. I'm going to disable this one. Funkmaster MP, did that fix the echoing? Could also be my room that's echoing. What I did was I turned off the... Okay, great. So just to make sure I remember, I turned off the mic aux and I had the audio input capture turned on. Okay. So anyway, yeah, the reason I needed the raw byte values was that I wrote this bot so that you can click, it watches your mouse as you're clicking, and it captures a random set of pixels around where you're clicking and uses that to recognize a particular set of tiles, and then it uses a sequence of those. So it's actually this path here is as you walk and the view changes, it's actually dynamically tracking that targeting and figuring out where along the path you are. And as you can see down here, it's expecting these waypoints down here by the that are covered up by the bottom of the thing. It's actually inferring that they are there, and they're just covered up by the UI. And what I had ultimately intended to do was to extend that to being able to track monsters, etc. And basically, I think most bots probably play a game by looking at the memory for where the monsters are. And what I had hoped to do with this bot, but I never finished it, what I had hoped to do was to have it actually track by seeing the game. Anyway, so that's little side note there, but that's how long I've been interested in hacking Diablo. And this right here was the you could teach it to learn the fonts in the game, and I had it recognizing all these font patterns. I couldn't find it that was back in a long time ago. I couldn't find a good OCR program, and then I thought, well, why do I need to actually OCR it? I can just match the character bytes directly. In fact, if I remember right, I think that I might have even had it to where it figures out like the minimum set of pixels that it has to look at to disambiguate, for instance, the difference between a 0 and an O. Anyway, so back to the Diablo build here. So what I had hoped to do is I'd hoped to be able to run it right out of the debug folder, especially so that I wouldn't have to patch it. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install it and then try dropping these executables I just built. Because I think that's going to be a little bit easier than trying to get it to find the right paths for the MPQ file, etc. Because I guess I'll have to extract those. I'm not really sure how to get those off the disk right now. So let's go ahead and install Diablo. Maybe. I'm not even sure if it actually will install on Windows 10. Let's find out. CD drive. Okay. Agree. Installing. And okay. I'm gonna be surprised if this captures the video. Probably won't, will it? I don't know if you guys are getting just black screen yet. My stream's also a little bit. Okay, that's 1.8. So the instructions said 1.09, but maybe 1.08 will work as well. I'm just going to go through here to far enough to get to where I can know that it actually loads and then see if the executable runs. Not really sure what's going on with the palette there. Very original name test. Excuse me. Yes, it is very colory. The stream that I can see is delayed from my capture. So what I do, oh wow, hey, it's even got the right colors. Very long. You gotta hear this.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Okay. Now let's see if the executable is built to also run this game. Okay. So we know that it put it in the, should be program files x86 Diablo. Now I'm going to create a folder to back up these other files. Okay, let's see. Let's get our Diablo exe, Diablo UI, and Storm DLL. Those in there. Okay. Now let's go get the other files that we just built. Open file location. Okay. Diablo UI, and Storm DLL. I'm going to be amazed if this works. Oh yeah, stopping Explorer EXE to get normal colors. Yeah, that Explorer EXE process, I think that a long time ago, if you stopped that process, it would actually freeze up your whole computer, and now it just SOS Cookies said that he remembers stopping the process of Explorer EXE to get normal colors. That is the process that creates the start menu and the taskbar. And on Windows 95 and maybe 98, if you killed that process, your computer would just hang. But starting in Windows XP, they made it to where it would automatically restart. And the reason why killing that fixes the colors is that I believe, I'm guessing that what it probably does is it probably causes, it resets the palette somehow, and probably the Diablo executable is hooking some event that when it receives that, let's see. SOS Cookie says, you couldn't see the desktop, but you could tab to Diablo on Win 7, it worked. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm guessing, so the way that the Windows programs work is they register for messages, and or they get the message and they just have to filter it. And so what it may have been doing is it may have been receiving some message that says, hey, your palette got messed up, you need to reset it. And either there was another message that it was missing out on that told it, hey, your palette happened to get messed up during the normal course of play, you better reset it, and it wasn't doing that, and that's why the colors got funny. Or else, I don't know. Basically that 8-bit 256 color display technology is just not compatible with multiple monitors and modern computing, essentially. Okay, so we've put the Diablo exe into the folder that we just built, or the Diablo exe we just built into the folder. We've got the Storm DLL, and we've got Diablo UI DLL. And let's see what happens when I run it. Oh, it did not like it. Now we're going to install or play or patch Diablo using... Oh, okay, because I got to run it as administrator. Yes. Ah, that's why those files had the administrator little shield thing on there. I guess the compatibility that Windows 10 has... let's see... Virtual memory. I'm guessing that the reason it installs in Windows 10 is probably because it was making that have the UI, not the UI, the administrator access. So this didn't work. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to see which piece is not working. And to do that, call that one build. I'm going to put the ones that I just grabbed. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to see if there's any combination of the old and the new that does work, and then that will tell me which project it is that's not playing well or not working correctly now. So put that. These are the ones that I built. And now I'm going to come back and I'm going to get these ones I backed up. And anytime that you're trying to figure something out and you're having crashes, you always want to move carefully and you want to have a baseline that works and go back to your baseline that works whenever in between testing things. Okay, so now what I've done is I've just started Diablo with what should be the original files. And actually, I might take this opportunity to connect to BattleNet and see if it will give me an update. I don't know if it has any servers on. Let's see. Do I have? Let's see. Yeah. All right. This might help because now I'll be able to get the 1.09 version. I'm really surprised that the servers are still up. Let's see. SOS Cookie says at least 10 megabytes of free space. I have about 4 million megabytes of free space. Yep. Most likely, actually, that could be my problem. Is it might have overflowed and decided that maybe I have 4 gigabytes and 4 gigabytes remained, or 8 of space or something. I don't know. Update successful. Show details. We got 109. Awesome. Okay. And I got a black screen. Okay, now I have no mouse. Now we got version 109. Okay. So we verified that. Oh wow, that is a crazy screen resolution. Okay. Firewalls blocked some feature of this app. Sure, allow access. Okay. I'm going to say this is backup old. Alright, backup 108. Now I'm going to make backup 109. And this time, I'm just going to copy those because I'm going to see. Storm Diablo UI. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I want to find out which of the 3 things that I just built is responsible for the problem. And I'm guessing it's probably not Storm DLL. I'll go ahead and give this a try. Place the file. Continue. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to work very well because the layout of things could have changed between the 2 compiler versions. So this is a little bit risky in terms of it not actually working, but it might work. Okay, and it did not. Ordinal 202, and that's kind of what I was referring to. You can't really mix and match the newest library and the older one probably. But I'm gonna try this. Maybe if both of the DLLs are replaced, maybe I'll be able to do it. Place the file. Continue. Yes. Interesting. Maybe. Oh, no. Okay, here we go. Engine.cpp line 2269. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to take a look at what engine.cpp 2269 is. I think that's probably in the Diablo project. Engine.cpp. There might even be a comment on there that says something that let's see. Funkmaster MP says, if this works, how feasible do you think it would be to make a program that pulls maps from the game? Probably feasible. The project itself, I'll go over here, on the GitHub project, they show some examples of these things right here, which are about modding, and it shows how he was able to add like additional debug info to the screens and additional, I guess it shows all extra tooltips here. And so theoretically, almost all of the internal data that the game has would be available. And it might even if we didn't run this build directly, it might also be possible to use it to gain insight as to what the in-memory structures of the unmodified game have. So, for instance, as a speedrunner, you might be interested in making sure that you run an unmodified binary, but having this information available might also assist with being able to pull current runtime information out of the unmodified binaries run as well. Okay, so we want to go to line 2269. And that does not look like anything to do with virtual memory. Error encountered was at engine CPP line 2269. Yeah, that doesn't look like anything to do with that. Maybe it's calculating that information differently. Or there could be another file called engine CPP and Diablo UI. Nope, there's not. Okay, it's getting pretty late here. I might have to come back to this again another time. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Last time I streamed for an hour and I don't know if anyone really watched it. And so this is really cool that you guys stayed to see this. I do this every Monday. So next week I'm going to be picking up where I left off on this. Maybe by then I'll have some more research done as to how to get this to work, and then we might be able to dig into it some more. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching.